what is the religion according to you? Why do you consider monotheism, polytheism, and atheism to be all part of Hinduism? And what is the culture of a land? How much is there between religion and culture? Yeah, so I have spoken about this in the past, I think a couple of times perhaps. So, okay, what's a religion? So, religion is a Western concept. In India, we have the concept of dharma, which is a very much wider concept. In the Western perception of religion, a religion is something that has one prophet, one God, and one book, and everybody follows that. That is the Western concept of religion, and that has been force fitted on Eastern cultures. So Eastern cultures have always been polytheistic. Even the ancient Arabic culture was polytheistic actually. So this foreign Western Abrahamic concept of one book, one prophet, one God has been force fitted on Eastern cultures, Eastern traditions. And that's how today we all see it, because this is the way we are taught about religion. So then they have imposed this ism suffix onto Eastern traditions: Hinduism, Tengriism, Confucianism, Taoism, and whatever else, Shintoism. So that's the kind of thing that's been done. Our traditions are very, very diverse, very wide. Now, why do I consider monotheism, polytheism, atheism to be part of Hinduism? Well, it's so what is Hinduism? It's essentially a number of ancient philosophical traditions, a number of interrelated, interconnected philosophical schools of thought that are extremely diverse. So I have spoken about this in the past. Let me give you a very brief overview again. So we have, I think, 8 or 9 schools of thought in Hinduism, major schools of thought. There are many other smaller schools of thought. The first one is Charvaka, which is atheism. It is pure materialism. It rejects the existence of God. Then you have the Jaina school of thought, Jaina philosophy, which does believe in karma and rebirth, but it is also an atheistic school of thought. It rejects the existence of any God. Then you have the Bauddha philosophy, which is again a dharmic philosophy. It believes in karma and rebirth, but it is again mostly atheistic. It rejects the existence of God. Then you have Nyaya, which is realistic. It is a realistic philosophy based upon logic. So in Nyaya, the Atma or the self is distinct from the mind and the body. There is karma and rebirth, and it does believe in the existence of God. That is Nyaya. Then you have Vaisheshik, in which there is the belief in karma and rebirth, and there is a belief in the existence of God. Then you have the Sankhya philosophy, which is dualistic realism, in which there is no need for God. Then you have yoga philosophy, which admits the existence of God, and it is essentially a form of Sankhya, theistic Sankhya. Then you have Mimamsa, which is based upon the Vedas. So in this philosophy, the soul is immortal, it is eternal, but there is no supreme God, there is no creator God. So this is a skeptical theory, atheistic theory to some extent. It does believe in the law of karma. It says this law is an autonomous, natural, and moral law that rules the world. And finally, we have Vedanta, which says that there exists a supreme person who permeates the entire universe and yet who remains beyond it. So these are the major schools of thought of what we call Hinduism today. As you can see, there is such a wide panoply of ideas and beliefs, and it's different systems. So you have monotheistic aspects to it, like Vedanta says there is a supreme person who permeates the universe and yet is beyond it. So you could interpret that as kind of being monotheistic, but there are so many different aspects of this divinity which manifest themselves in a variety of ways, which we call these different gods, right? 64 crore gods, or whatever the hell they call it in Hinduism. It's not 64 crore gods. This is the Western concept. It's a Western myth. Anyhow, so you have polytheism, you have monotheism, you also have skepticism in atheism, you have materialism, and you have spiritualism and whatnot. So it's a very diverse tradition, so many different schools of thought, and therefore all of these schools of thought, they encompass all of these different viewpoints and philosophies, and they are all part of Hinduism. However, the Abrahamic monotheism is in no way part of dharma. It is actually adharma if you look at it strictly, because it talks about one God, one prophet, and one book, and everybody is forced to believe that. You can't go beyond that. There is no, you're not allowed to question anything. you have to blindly obey, blind obedience. That is not a dharmic way of looking at anything. So those uh, belief systems are clearly not part of Hinduism. But the ones I just mentioned, the various ancient Indian schools of thought, philosophical thought, those diverse viewpoints are all part of Hinduism. Now, what's the difference between a culture and a religion? Well, in the case of the Eastern traditions, there's very little difference between culture and religion, because what we call Hinduism is not really a religion, because we don't have one book, one God, and one prophet. We have so many different viewpoints. So that is all. Whatever practices you have in a society, in a civilization like India, that's all culture. So it manifests itself in the way you dress, the kind of dress you wear, the kind of languages you speak, the kind of festivals you celebrate, the kind of traditions you follow, um, the kind of practices you have, rituals you have, all of that, the kind of music you play, the kind of cuisine you have, all of that forms what's called culture. And clearly, the what is called religion is a major component of that.